Welcome to Conversations with CSG, the Global Talent podcast from CSG Talent. We interview influential figures across a wide range of innovative and impactful industry sectors worldwide, discussing career journeys, overcoming challenge, achieving success, diversity, and much more. I'm sure you'll see value in a lot of the topics we cover. So here it is. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Conversations with CSG. Today we're joined by Dan Carr, the Sales Director for the UK at MRC Global. Dan, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Let's kick off then, if you're happy to do so.
Phil, thanks for having me.
So obviously we've known each other a little while now, but sort of going back into the past, you've transitioned from a military environment to a commercial setting, an engineer and a leader in the British Army. How was that transition for you, and at what point did you make the decision to leave that behind and go into the role you're in, or the industry you're in now?
Ultimately, the transition wasn't direct. Let's be honest. I did my dues on the tools in the utilities, the water and gas industry, before a more natural progression, let's say, into the sales environment, which clearly has been the bulk of my career post military. Long story short, it was a family decision. My wife was expecting. I wanted to be present. I wanted to create a life for my family. I wanted control, if I'm being honest, of when I was home and when I wasn't home. That choice in itself has set me up for everything I've done since. But the Army gave me a wonderful skill set to bring into the civilian world. I mean, discipline is a given. Without discipline, it's hard to do anything. But it also gives you a sense of clarity. Your mission. In the Army, your mission's simple, your why is simple. It's you get up, you train, you prepare for wherever you're sent in the world to do something. When you don't have a drill sergeant screaming in your face every morning, you've got to find your own why, your own mission, and they set you up to do that. But ultimately, the whole reason for leaving was family. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about what you need at the time. And I think, from my point of view, and I think I probably said this to you the first time we spoke, but in terms of the recruitment side of things, we consistently see really good success with candidates with a military background, whether that's from the engineering side of things, so they have that wonderful technical grounding, or as you say, whether it's just purely due to the discipline you need and the responsibilities that you have in that sort of role. So it was no surprise to me that you were a good candidate for the initial role we talked about, and obviously what you've done in your career. I don't look for it, especially when I look for people when I'm recruiting, but it's definitely a positive.
I think it's something what people should look more for. It's a wonderful skill set. It's a wonderful mindset. I think there is at times maybe a bias, but you're bringing something into the organisation which is going to be of a certain way, a certain demeanour, a certain attitude, but it's a significantly untapped pool of very confident, very disciplined, very adaptable people. And I do wish more people in the UK would be a little bit more open-minded, even if the CV doesn't say that skill set, that job role, it's an exact like for like. It is a wonderful skill set.
Yeah, I think in my experience as well, although it's a different environment, but I think the US do a lot better job of highlighting the skills you can get from the military and sort of pioneering that into roles in industry or whatever the function is. So I think there's still some work to do on that in the UK, but I've seen a lot of success with it. So moving on slightly, but you've obviously mentioned some of the key duties and responsibilities you had during that time have served you well. And I'm sure there's been a lot of different ones, but what would you say the sort of single most valuable principle is that you've learned during your time in the Army that you sort of apply daily with your current role or in previous positions?
I don't know if you can call it a skill set per se, but composure is a huge trait you learn because of the stresses of the training, the experiences you have once you're active service. The ability to make direct decisions under pressure. I think it was Mike Tyson who said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Business is no different. Strategies in place, you've got business plans in place, and one scenario, one economic decision, lost opportunity, and you've got to be able to maintain composure. You've got to be able to take a step back, adapt, move, twist, bend, whatever word you want to use, and you've got to be able to move forward. And what I don't think anyone wants from a leader in any business, whether it's supervisor, manager, director, CEO, is someone at the top running around like headless chicken and panicking because it didn't go to plan. That calmness has to come from the top down, and it makes everyone feel more confident and more stable. I think confidence is infectious, and if you see your immediate line manager reacting in a very positive way to something which may have gone wrong, it makes you feel that, okay, things aren't bad. We're just going to take a step back. We're going to adapt. We're going to adjust. We're going to improvise. We're going to make it happen. By far, the biggest principle for me, growing up in a military family as well as serving myself, was it's just composure. I don't know if you can call it a skill, but it's certainly something you learn.
Yeah, obviously I'm not from a military background, of course, but I think a lot of recruitment companies look for people from sporting environments for the similar reason. You've got to be able to, in the heat of the battle, still stay calm, execute your skill. And similar, I've definitely had, playing sort of cricket and football, I've definitely had instances where you're looking to a senior player, how are we going to react? And if they're the captain and they're good at what they do, have that composure, then you see them problem. We keep moving, we execute, and we move forwards. And I suppose high performance is something that's very relevant within the military, but also in a sales commercial environment. Obviously, I appreciate you've been sales leader previously, but maybe in your current role as well. As a sales director, what is your philosophy for building a high performing sales team, and how does that change or drive your decisions around success?
Same skill set as what I went through training with in the military. It's consistency. It's clarity, and it's accountability. It's habits in its simplest form. I like to read, and I read once, I think it takes 72 repetitions to form a habit. You need to give people very clear direction. You need to give them a framework, processes, and then you've just got to move out of people's way and let them build those habits. You've got to, if you want them to do something different, you've got to give them that clear direction and then just let them build the habits. That's military training. You strip a rifle 100 times before you even fire the thing. It's to build the habit to do it subconsciously. You've got to build that desire and that will and that want to do it. It's a defined process. It's defined metrics to make sure you're getting the right results. And then I can't put it any clearer. It's just move out the way and let the team get on with it. Yeah. No one likes to be micromanaged. That creates actually the wrong attitude. It creates the wrong results because people aren't showing you what they want, what they think you want to be seen in that regard. And then it's important to hold yourself to the same standards. Expectations is certainly a two-way street. In my opinion, I need to stay approachable and I need to be accountable to my team. If they raise an obstacle, I need to move that obstacle. If I let all the obstacles build up and I'm not helping them progress through their routine and building their habits, then no one wins. So I think the ultimate answer to that one is standards. Standards matter, but it is a two-way street.
Yeah, exactly. Leading by example is a big part of that.
100%.
I agree. I know there's certainly been times in my career, obviously outside the career as well, where if you do have that really strong example and that person is conscientious and understands the situation you're in or the position you're in and still gives you that sort of guiding light, then it makes things a lot easier. There's a lot less of a emotional or a worry about it, and it's a case of, no, this is possible. He's showing me that, or she's showing me that. I can do this and I can move forward. So yeah, I that makes sense to me as well, certainly. In terms of, I suppose, more your current role, the markets you currently operate in, obviously very much in the PVF or more specifically the valve and actuation side of things at the moment. Obviously that's oil and gas and the related markets that you're operating in are constantly evolving. I see a lot, obviously my background, I do a lot within rotating and static equipment, but also turbo machinery, and there's definitely major trends going on. Obviously, everyone knows about AI and automation, but then I'm seeing a lot of clients looking at carbon capture and hydrogen as really exciting emerging new markets. So what would you say the most significant market trend currently impacting in terms of approaching new business customer retention?
I would say we're at an accelerated rate of new technologies, and that's exciting. And I think the trick for any organization, regardless of your product or service, is to be in front of that. There is a quiet optimism, and I'm excited about new energy, particularly in my niche, in my space. I'm excited by what tomorrow brings. You mentioned AI a moment ago. It's there's wonderful opportunity there. Some people may say it's the start of the Terminator age. Who knows? But in my mind, any tool what improves the way we do things, which makes life easier, makes things more efficient, whether that's industry specific, whether that's IT, whether that's healthcare, whether that's energy, I can only see that being a good thing. And where there is advancements, there's opportunity generally means business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's scary how quickly it's moving, certainly from the AI standpoint. But as you say, I think if there's a technology that's drilled down on and made effective and very much usable by the wider population, it can only be a positive. But I think we're probably still in that sort of teething period. Probably in 2030, it'll be a lot less of fanfare around it, and it'll be much more part of normal life. And in terms of your comments around uncertainty, that's something we obviously see from our side of things as well. Obviously you're very much beholden in recruitment to your clients and what their pain points are or their financial positions. We have some teams who work exclusively in the US with federal opportunities, and naturally with everything that's gone on with the changes over there last year, that's been a very bumpy road. But I think also you've got to be cautious, but you've also got to be opportunistic. If you do see an ability
Absolutely.
to get ahead of the competition in some way, then if you don't take it, someone else will. So while it's maybe more cause for worry than there used to be when it's a bit more stable, I still think there's, as you say, there's opportunities to really keep things moving forwards.
And that's what I think most people sort of lose sight of when it's doom and gloom on the media every day and so forth. And as I said, all industries have taken their individual sort of pain points throughout the year, but there is an awful lot going on in the world, isn't there, at the moment? And I think you've got to maintain that laser focus on what you do, the markets you serve, and you've just got to, going back to a previous comment, you've just got to do the right things consistently at the right times, and life generally takes care of itself.
Yeah, indeed. Moving back onto purely the sales side of things, and obviously it's something that we do or see a lot of here, and obviously negotiation is a core part of any sales process. Could you describe maybe the most challenging sales negotiation that you've led in your career, and maybe what specific strategies allowed you to achieve a desired result at that point, or what you'd recommend in terms of those strategies moving forwards or in future negotiations?
So a difficult question to answer, because generally a lot of the larger scale negotiations I will have been under certain restrictions, NDAs and so forth. I'll answer a little bit more generalistic if that's okay.
Yeah.
I find the most challenging the negotiations are the ones you actually don't know you're in. I have a very straightforward approach to negotiation. I have a framework, I follow a process, I remain composed, and I start where you should start in any sales cycle, by building and strengthening the relationship. And what I mean by that is the old adage, 2 ears, 1 mouth. You've got to listen more than you speak, and you've got to try and build your negotiation from a place of clarity and not panic. Customers are buying confidence, not chaos, generally, and that starts long before you're at a boardroom table, getting into the nitty-gritty of whatever the opportunity may be. That person's negotiating in their own mind 2 months, 3 months, a year prior to that. Do I like this individual sat in front of me? Do I trust them? Can they deliver? Are they just giving me the catalogue pitch? Are they just in it for the numbers and such? And not enough salespeople realise you're in a negotiation the first time you shake someone's hand. That person is negotiating whether they want to do business with you. And they'll make that decision very, very quickly. So another book I like to read, and there's a saying in there, are you the favourite or the fool? And my team have heard me say this many, many times. If you've done the handshake and that person doesn't trust you, you're going through the motions because they need a tender, they need a bid, they need to compare something, but you may be the fool, you may be wasting your time. That's a negotiation you don't know you're in. And it's our job as sales professionals to make sure that we're the favourite. And you do that by being genuine, empathetic, really working on the relationship rather than trying to achieve a number.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from our side of things, obviously recruitment, it's a saturated industry at the end of the day, whether in the UK or globally. And I think obviously you have that initial conversation on negotiation, as you're saying, and that's absolutely vital in terms of conveying that you know what you're doing, you know how to do it, and you know what they need, and you can deliver the solution. And it's not so much a negotiation point, I suppose, but I think from my point of view, given there's so many competing recruiters, or obviously this is my field, but I think I'll really approach a conversation or an initial negotiation with the view that I'm going to say I'm going to do this, and then it's absolutely vital that I do this, because then there's the trust there within however long the time period is. I think it grows trust. I know I believe that was the case. I know we first spoke maybe not as a negotiation point, but if you say you're going to do something, then you do it. Naturally, there's a level of confidence from the other person that you're both serious people and you're trying to, there's a common goal there. So yeah, not a negotiation point, but it's something I try to remember a lot when I'm working with clients.
And if without being specific on any single transaction, every business can offer a benefit, a perk, a positive to try and sway the balance. Everyone has their ace up their sleeve. In my personal experience, most scenarios where you may not win is because you've not taken it past the number. Negotiating a deal and negotiating a win generally isn't that difficult. Implementation is where most deals fall apart. So winning once and then having a bad experience afterwards in the implementation phase, the delivery of a product or service, whatever that scenario may be, that's generally where the damage is done, and it's difficult to negotiate your way back into the relationship after that
Yeah.
point. I think the clarity comes in the negotiation, particularly from a sales perspective, is where you actually worry about the implementation as well. What are we doing? When are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Who's accountable for what? Really taking that extra step and that extra time to, after the number, when you're chasing the next one, to make sure that that customer and that relationship is still serviced. That's imperative. And I think there's some people who do that very, very well, and I think there's some people who do that very poorly.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. There's a wide wide range there. Yeah, I mean, in terms of any sales process, whether you're the recruitment or you're selling valves, whatever it is, customers are always going to be at the heart of what you do as well, and your strategy should be customer. How do you ensure that your sales team remains customer focused and positioned as someone who's consultative and a partner of that customer?
Almost exactly what I just said. So I remind the team that customers judge us on our actions. How easy are we to deal with? The sales individual owns a relationship, but it's the brand, the company, what delivers the product, the service, the application, whatever that scenario may be. You build and work on the relationship. You become consultative, you're responsive, clear. You communicate well. You lose time or you lose favor when you make assumptions rather than having clarity on the conversation, and whatever the application may be. You've got to remove the friction. I honestly believe, and I stress to my sales team, you do the best selling when something's gone wrong. Best way to remain customer centric is, if something goes wrong, turning up, smile on your face, notebook in hand, saying, right, this has happened, this is how we plan to fix it, let's discuss. It's a partnership. I actually don't like the word customer or supplier for that matter. It's a partnership, and that's how it should be treated. If
Yeah.
it's just transactional, similar to going to the supermarket and buying your loaf of bread,
Yeah.
that's not what we're doing. Particularly in my niche, it takes a lot longer to get the right application, the right product, the right setup done. Working in cooperation with a customer, although I'm not fond of the word, as a partner, it is a far better way of doing it. And that's what I stress to any sales team I've managed throughout my career. Don't go in and sell a catalog product. Go in and sell, hey, we're here to help you achieve your goals. Whether that be a specific delivery time on a project, whether that be a specific budget, whatever their driving force may be. And you don't know that until you build the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same with us, not only from a success point of view, but also just purely from a sort of enjoyment and getting some catharsis from your role. I much prefer it when you're treated as a partner of business. Obviously, speaking from a recruitment point of view, it's so much more enjoyable because you get to really understand why they're looking or what their problems are, and you can try and solve those rather than it just being a case of we need this, we need it tomorrow, yesterday, go and find it, and then you build up to that point. Of course, you're not always going to get that real strong understanding from the first day you work with the business, but it's a lot more enjoyable when you do. And I think especially when you have done a good job or you have created a solution for them, you can walk away with pride and you can know that that's repeatable and that's something you can do with other clients and other, not customers, maybe businesses. So completely agree with that. And frankly, you enjoy your evening a lot more when you feel like that's been part of your day. Maybe that's more a personal point, but also brings success as well. I suppose staying on the sort of team leadership standpoint, given your current role, but also your previous positions, there's always going to be people you're mentoring, coaching, leading from the front, leading by example. We've obviously discussed that, and that's a big focus for yourself. How has that shaped your leadership style? I imagine you start learning as a leader, probably as we discussed at the start, in the military environment where not all the time, but at points you're going to be leading people in a small environment or a small group. So how has that shaped your leadership style till now, and what would you say the value that you would bring to a business in that regard would be?
Yeah. I think a general consistent sort of message throughout this conversation has been directness. You can't use military directness in a civilian business. Well, you could, but I don't think it'd be popular, let's say.
Yeah.
That's very shouty, very direct, somewhat aggressive in nature. But you learn being direct gets rid of the noise, gets rid of the confusion, the interpretation. Being as direct as possible, yet friendly, approachable is obviously important. And that's generally my style. I massively conform to servant leadership. I'm there to make my team's life better, both professionally and personally, as much as possible. I need a team to achieve a goal. To do that, how can I help you? Military is very much the same, although it's not as friendly. It's what training course do I need to get you a promotion so you get to the next payment tier? Those sort of scenarios. It's very much the same. I think being accessible is probably the biggest thing I say about my leadership style. I want people to feel they can reach out to me for anything at any time.
Yeah.
Day or night, weekend, vacation. I'm ultimately there to give them the best chances of progressing their career, happy, healthy lives. And all I ask in return is that they maintain the standards which we've set, follow the processes we've set. I think this gives a massive amount of stability and clarity. When people know you'll back them, when they feel supported.
Yeah.
Also, they know that there is an expectation, but it's a results-driven business, so there's no grey area there. It's not just all friendly. There is still an expectation, and there is an accountability as well. I think direct servant leadership and an accountability culture is certainly what I would say is the biggest traits I try and impose from a leadership style into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not surprised that you say that at all, knowing you, but also from my point of view, I think if there's a set level of expectation and someone's direct, but then gives you respect, and as you say, is approachable. I think that for me anyway, that turns it quite quickly from someone who you don't know that well and you're coming into it to someone you really really respect, because they're showing the right values, they're doing it as we discussed before with them. I think it's a case of you immediately have a really high level of respect for that person, and you hear the phrase run through brick walls. Those are probably the two things. If someone gives me a clear instruction or a clear set of mandate, but then is extremely open and approachable and wants to help you achieve that, then suddenly you're like, well, I've got no reason not to do it. I'm now gonna go out and try and smash that target. So yeah, I completely agree, to be honest.
But this is where I said earlier in the conversation, but accountability is a two-way street. We expect a lot from our colleagues, from our team. They have a right to expect the same from us. And being accessible and removing obstacles or whatever that demand is, it builds that accountability both ways, and it's a clarity on expectations. You can be very direct. You go and do this now. And if that person comes to you and says, I can't do this until you do this, and you do nothing, the relationship's gone straight away.
Yeah.
It's a very common trait in the military. If you want someone to do something, you've got to show them how, you've got to train them to do it, and then you've got to give them the freedom to get on with it. But if the way you've shown them doesn't work because of a problem, jump out of that plane, please. Well, you haven't given me a parachute. You ain't going to jump out of the plane. So it's important to make sure that you do your part.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you probably said it to me the first time we've spoken, but the phrase, I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, sort of springs to mind, or couldn't do myself. It just instills confidence, doesn't it? So that makes sense. I think it's something that pops up a lot on job descriptions, and when we take a brief for a position, or even when you just see what companies are looking for in new people, continuous improvement, the ability to not just have a goal and try and hit it, but to continually be looking at how can we improve what we do, how can we be more efficient, how can we bring better value to ourselves or to our customers. And I imagine that's something you constantly to think about as well. How important would you say is ongoing development as a leader, and are there areas that you in your role right now are thinking about or working on to make yourself a better leader? Because obviously it's a continuous thing, I would say.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you use the perfect word, continuous. It's one of my non-negotiables. I can't help someone develop their skills if I'm not constantly trying to develop my skills. And let's face it, in life, we never stop learning. No one's an expert on anything, no matter sometimes we may think we are. I'm a big fan of self-learning. I read a lot of books. I've referenced a couple, I think, in this conversation, or certainly lines from within. I'm always trying to improve my experience, adapt to feedback I receive from friends, colleagues, peers, and so forth. And of course, failures. I think doing a deep dive on I'll use the word failure, but maybe a bit extreme. What went wrong? Why? Who did what? Where? When? particularly when it's yourself, best opportunity to learn. Right now I'm focused on sharpening negotiation skills, obviously in the role I do. I've spent the last probably 2 years trying to really understand the psychology of people, to be a stronger coach, a stronger senior manager, and certainly a better husband and father as well, if I dare say that. The better I get at a skill, the better my team get, because they can reference that experience of learning. I encourage, whether people want to or not, I don't enforce it, but the entire team in all businesses I've worked in to engage in self-learning, particularly if it's something which interests you or if it's your career path. I consider myself a very competent sales individual. I didn't start that way. I was a soldier, and then I was throwing spanners and hammers on the gas utility and the water utility networks. The ability to hold a conversation was natural, but understanding certain words and certain patterns in conversation, that was all new, and it was self-development which took me along that route.
Yeah. You don't, I
Big
suppose,
fan.
stop doing it
Big
once you've
fan
done
in
that.
self-learning. As I say, it's a non-negotiable for me. I read many, many books. I'm guilty of finding a trend on YouTube or a particular individual and watching a few of their videos. They're probably not all healthy for me, if I'm honest. Maybe a little bit too much time on social at times, but there is a lot of information out there for people for free, for people to improve their skill sets.
Yeah.
You know, I have the wonderful benefit in my current organization, but there is also a wealth of knowledge, experience, and skill with people and documented. So if you've got a niche, obviously that's more aligned to your industry. But there's so much information accessible, more than any time in history. And it's just, I go back to the discipline word. It's committing a bit of time to polishing your own skill set.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. I think, from my point of view, maybe not so much. It's more within myself and how I can improve. I think the ultimate thing for me is just being honest with yourself. When you're looking at why something hasn't gone the desired way or gone as well as hoped, I think if you're really honest with yourself, then usually you know the answer to a degree. I think there's certain situations where it's a new experience for you, and you ask and you understand why from someone who knows better. But often, if you really look in and think, what could I have done? What did I do? I think that's absolutely vital to continuous improvement. And I think also being someone who's a continuous improvement leader for a business or an organisation, I think there's probably an element of it there as well. In your heart of hearts, you know who's working for you, know what the projects have been. You might not have been across every single part of it. You probably, if you really think about it, know or can understand what might have been more efficient or done better.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to do a review of something what goes wrong. Look, we all analyse when things go wrong, but if you're junior in your career and it's someone more senior, if you're analysing it, you think you're going to get the raw end of that stick. There's an acronym, is FAIL, first attempt in learning. And that's, again, what I stressed. When something goes wrong, it's not about who did what, where to point the blame, who gets the kick. It's about, as a team, looking over what did we do wrong, how can we get better. So I use the acronym FAIL quite a lot, first attempt in learning. We don't want to make the same mistakes twice. I'm lucky, I don't think mistakes happen nowhere near as much as they did more junior in my career, but hey, none of us are immune to making a mistake, and they do happen, that's life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about how you react to it, isn't it? As with anything,
I think it's about how you see it. I think it's about how you position it in your business and in your culture and in your organisation and in your family life. We all grow up, your parents say, why did you do that? And why becomes very accusational, it becomes very aggressive. You know you're going to get a telling off. Fail has always had that horrible taint to it. You failed, you didn't do well.
Yeah,
And so
connotations are
just
very negative.
making it a positive. First attempt in learning. Hey, it went wrong, but let's learn from it. It just changes the narrative a little bit, and you're still getting the same result at the back end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Well, I agree with that. Looking forwards, then, next 5 years. This is obviously a very general question. You can apply it to your industry or just what you see. But what would you say that the biggest or single greatest opportunity you see for organisations to continue to evolve and increase their value proposition or what they can offer?
Absolutely. So I guess we've mentioned AI, and I imagine that would be everyone's first go-to.
Easy answer.
I would disagree to an extent. I would say the biggest opportunity is simplification in any organization, any business, regardless of your product industry and so forth. the easier you can make a process, the easier you can achieve what you need to do to make it easier for a customer to do business with you. I think that's the biggest opportunity. That may be AI. It may be AI's predecessor. It may be whatever. Who knows what tomorrow brings? We're moving at such a rapid rate of knots in terms of technology these days. But I think bringing clarity and consistency and a single point of truth in an organization makes the customer's experience so much easier, so much more efficient. You'll become indispensable. I think simplification is the biggest opportunity. And on the reverse of that, same for your reports, your team, your structuring. It's not just about the customer. It's about, if I come in and I have to press this button, then press this button, then press this button, and then, hey, suddenly all my work's done. How much more efficient? We're buying back our time. We're being so much more proactive. I think, particularly in my experiences through the various different businesses and my career path, we can make things so overcomplicated the bigger companies get, or the more diverse our customers get, or the broader range of products we produce or services we offer. We can become very complicated. And I think time is money. I'm paraphrasing a YouTuber at the moment, Dan Martell, but he's done a book. It'll be the next one I buy, and it's called Buy Back My Time. Now, he's very big on AI. I don't buy into everything he says, but I do like the principle of buying back our time. I think the quicker we can do things, the simpler we can make our processes, the more efficient, the more easier the customer experience. I think that's the biggest opportunity I see over the coming years. And I think technology, yes, will play a part in that. Absolutely, I do. Do I embrace it fully? No, I've said it more than once to you in various conversations. I'm very mechanical, hammer and spanner type individual, but I'm not afraid of the technology. I look in with quiet optimism and hope it doesn't turn into a robot which wants to do damage to us. I'm not in any way, shape or form a conspiracy theorist, but I've watched a lot of movies.
Yes, yeah, no, I saw an advert for a £20,000 household help robot, which reminded me forcibly of iRobot, and I'm not sure I've got Will Smith's ability to shoot them down. So hopefully they stay friendly. I mean, going back to the simplification side of things, I think that's something I found. I've worked in recruitment for probably 7 years now, across a couple of different businesses. The thing I've learned the most is what the principles are, what works. Going away from that is always going to be a distraction and make it itself less efficient. And I think I've learned that most in the last 2 years. You're going back to the things you sort of drilled into you at the start and what works, and just staying consistent with that. And not just with myself, but some of my colleagues. It's really clear the people who do that do well, or not just to do well, are better recruiters and better partners to businesses. And obviously that's from a recruitment standpoint, but that's been really obvious for me. And I think it's the same with anything.
There's a lot of work to Lean and to Six Sigma and Kanban and all the weird and wonderful tools to make life easier out there. There really is. I don't think you have to go to that extreme in every business. Absolutely not. But just look at what you do and make it as simple as possible. And I think you're already a step up against many other businesses out there. Where can you cut the noise? Are we doing something for the sake of doing something? Is there a process which just doesn't make sense, or is adding time, or is it 100% mission critical? I think just by looking at that, and politely, I think the best people to do that are the people who actually do it on a daily basis. I think a lot of managers like to get involved in those things, who understand it, but maybe not at the same level and detail as the team on the desk, and give them the freedom to look at it and tweak it and play with it and change it in a safe space. I think simplification for me is certainly where, and it's a very broad term, but it's just making the customer experience better by cutting out some of the noise. I think that's where the biggest opportunities come in any business going forward, because people who can do it quicker, more efficiently, they're the ones who'll do the best. We've become a very time conscious world at the moment. We expect things instantly. The internet, your phone, your takeaway, your fast food, whatever, it's all instantaneous, and I think we're becoming impatient as a species. So I think that's where the biggest benefits come from businesses going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely bleeding in, isn't it? Listen, I think it's been a great conversation. No surprise to me. Obviously, I appreciate. I suppose this is a question. We always ask our podcast guests. I think you've doled out a couple of really good bits of advice already. But what would you say the most valuable piece of advice that you've ever received throughout your career has been?
I don't know if it was in a professional setting or a personal setting, but the biggest and best piece of advice I got is the brain's a muscle. Whether you like going to the gym and you're on the treadmill, or you're lifting weights, or the brain's a muscle. If you're not challenging it, if you're not pushing its boundaries, if you're not exercising it, then it becomes static, it becomes lazy. I read a lot of books to improve my skill set and my education and my interests. And ultimately I was told, I was very active as a junior, sportsman, military, etc. It wasn't probably the best scholar. I mean, I was very capable, maybe didn't push myself as hard as I could have done. Too busy playing rugby and football with the boys after school. But it wasn't until I got in the military and my real interest for engineering kicked in, and I wanted to learn everything I could about the engineering disciplines, and it's very broad in the military. I got a spark for challenging and exercising the brain, and that's continued. I think it's very easy nowadays just to, and I think it's called doom scrolling, isn't it, when you're on the phone watching shorts and TikToks and YouTubes, and I'm guilty, I do it myself, particularly after long days, but I think it's discipline to cut out some time in your schedule, even if it's only a few minutes a day or an hour a week, whatever that is, to just do something to challenge your brain a little bit. And it doesn't have to be read a book. It may be a puzzle. It could be a Sudoku. It could be whatever. But you've just got to keep your brain healthy. And that was the advice I was given. Never stop learning. If it's something which interests you, aim to be the best at it. You never will, but keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, there's so much content out there. That also applies to a learning point of view. You can go on YouTube or any number of sites and learn how to do something, whether that's DIY, household skill, or something really industry specific or educational. So the opportunities are there. There's never been more opportunities, frankly, whether it's online or just the audiobooks. You don't have to buy the book. You don't have to go to a bookshop. You can just get it on your tablet or something like that. So there's fewer excuses than ever to be doing that and training your brain, as you mentioned. So no, I agree.
My only caveat to that is stay curious. Not all advice you see, particularly on social media, is healthy or accurate. You wouldn't watch a YouTube video with a few followers rewiring a house if the individual didn't have the skill set, the experience. I would want to know that individual, and maybe wiring a house isn't exactly the best example, because obviously there is rules and laws about stuff like that. But there's a lot of loose information out there as well. So stay curious. Do the due diligence. Watch that one video. Go and check it against another one. Are they saying the same?
Yeah.
Read a book. Does that book disagree with everything you've just seen on social media? It's staying curious. That's part of the pattern of training the brain. If you just accept everything you see first time, it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's not research. That's reading. If you do that, research is understanding the pros and cons.
Faith. And to be fair, I think good intentions. Most people are not putting bad information out there, but how did they get their information?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the question. It's about staying curious, which is probably a better piece of advice, to be fair. Maybe that's the answer. Stay curious.
Yeah, fair enough. I like that as an idea. Well, Dan, as I said, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Really appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
That was Conversations with CSG. I'm sure many professionals will relate and see value in the insights shared. Stay tuned for further insights from industry-leading professionals on our podcast, Conversations with CSG. Thanks for listening.